All right, wanted to do a quick video here because today, I realized it's been a little while since I really posted anything, and today I was just having some thoughts and some feelings, and I thought, it would be great to be an encouragement to you guys about this stuff, share um, some of these thoughts. But anyway, so it's hard a lot of times when things don't go our way for us to be able to maintain a good attitude, a good mindset, and to be able to focus on the things that are going right instead of the things that are going wrong. And I feel like that this is how the devil tries to attack us a lot of the time. He tries to use the things that are not going our way to distract us from the things that are going right in our lives. And if we look at where we are now and maybe where we were a year ago, or maybe where we were 2 years ago or 5 years ago, eventually, if you back it up far enough, you'll be able to see that, where you are now is far better than where you were before. And for me, like I don't even have to look that far. I can look at where I was, 3, 4 months ago, and worlds ahead of where I was at that time. So it's very encouraging just to be able to reframe it around that. But just going through the day today, Mondays are always pretty hectic for me with work, and there's a lot of things that go my way. There's a lot of things that go great, and there's a lot of things that don't go great. Setbacks and shortcomings, challenges, and difficulties. Everybody goes through that, and I tend to find myself fixating on the things. I'm naturally just problem solver type of person where I'm just looking for solutions. I'm very solution oriented and stuff. So I try to at least, look at ways to resolve issues and stuff. But even still, God is ultimately the problem solver in our lives. And it's not up to us to be able to try to force things to work in the natural. Rather, it's better to look through the eyes of the spirit, instead of being moved by the way that things look in the natural, instead of being moved and influenced by circumstances and situations. We're supposed to be walking by faith, talking by faith, and thinking, believing, and using our faith as the lens that we look through as we view the world, right? So as I'm looking at these situations and stuff, it's great that I want to resolve these issues that are coming up, but it's even better for me to slow down. This is the thing, it's slowing down, because things move 1,000 miles an hour over here. And I'm sure the same is true for you. And slowing down. I've been really meditating on this topic of being still. This is littered all throughout the Bible, where it tells us to be still and to wait on the Lord. And, for us to try to do things in our own strength, it doesn't leave room for the Lord to be able to have his way, and for him to be able to move us and lead us through his peace. A lot of times, if you feel that uncertainty and that uneasiness, then that just means that the Lord is not with you, or the Lord is not in that situation. And that is a telltale sign that it's high time for you to invite him into that situation. It's time for you to make a place for him in that circumstance that you're going through. So slowing down, right? Just slowing down and saying, instead of reacting to every situation as it arises, slowing down to say, God, what is your will in this situation? God, like, is there a reason that you ordained this? It says that he orders the steps of the righteous. And it says also that a man plans his ways, but the Lord establishes his steps. So, even though we have these plans and stuff, and I'm a big planner, and, for rightly so, because in my business, it's up to me to basically to plan out what the future looks like for the company, so that we can continue to move, and so that everybody can have stuff to do and places to go. So as far as all that's concerned, it's part of things that just have to be done. So with that being said, I'm looking at the schedule and the calendars and things like that, and I have um, plans, obviously, but a man plans his ways, but the Lord establishes his steps. So I want his his establishment of my steps, not just the way that I planned things. I wanted things to work out. And there was a situation that came up earlier, and it was like maybe something that didn't go our way. And we just thought, wow, this sucks. This isn't the way that we wanted it to go. But, there's always a reason. God does things in his timing. His ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. And he sees things in a different angle. He sees things that we don't see. And that's such a powerful thing to hold on to, especially as it becomes discouraging a lot of times to see things that didn't go the way that we wanted them to go. And so although there's been a lot of things that came up today that caused me to reflect on things that didn't go the way I wanted them to go, there was also things that went the way that I did want them to go. And if you find yourself entering into fear or worry or having anxiety about certain things, then you can really know that if you're having any of those thoughts at all, that God is not in those thoughts. It says in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7, it says that he hasn't given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And so it's important for us to know that if we have fear or worry is fear, anxiety is fear, that doesn't come from God. But God gives us a spirit of power and of love and of a sound mind. And faith, hope, and love, these three things remain. And the greatest of these is love. Faith worketh by love. So it's important to have love and not be, discouraged and disappointed and start allowing those feelings of strife and division to start coming up, because a lot of times that's what not getting our way leads to. And it says that where envy and strife is, there's every form of evil. So you really don't want that to start taking place, because that's another thing that will happen is you start getting out of love. And if you start getting out of love in these situations, then that'll really cause a disharmony inside of you. And then it starts opening the door for all these other sins and all these other ways of the devil coming to attack you. But, if you have those thoughts of uncertainty and fear and worry, anxiety, that stuff doesn't come from God. It's important to remember that doesn't come from God. But if you start to feel fear, you should be encouraged, because you say, oh, that's not from God. I don't have to receive that. You can reject it. It says perfect love casts out all fear. So instead of allowing that fear to permeate your mind, you can just reject it, resist the devil and he will flee. It says that he gives us a peace which passes all understanding, that rules in our hearts and in our minds. So we can have a peace knowing that fear doesn't come from God. So not only do I have to reject it, I don't have to accept it, but I can resist it, and the devil's going to flee from us. And then once he does flee from us, then it'll allow that peace that passes understanding, which means that you don't have to understand why you have the peace that you have, but you do. And when you walk back, slow down, wait for the Lord to find the peace in every situation, then all of a sudden you're going to be able to lean on the joy. You're going to be able to find your way back to the joy, because that's what happens when you get out of the peace. It starts taking away your joy. The joy of the Lord is our strength. So if we're not in joy, we're not going to be strong. And then all of a sudden, once the devil comes and attacks us, if we're not strong, then it's going to be really difficult for us to combat him. And he comes at us in all kinds of different ways. So I didn't really intend to make this very long, so I'm going to kind of bring it all back here in a second. But, waiting on the Lord is such a powerful concept, and slowing down, not rushing to try to resolve every situation, but like instead of going from the problem to react, just take an extra step and say, hey, God, what would you have me do? And then you go and move on to the next thing, or move on to try to resolve it, because he's going to lead you with his peace. And when you're trying different scenarios in your mind, then you can just find the peace in those different scenarios, find out which one in your spirit you get a witness over. But that's kind of what I've been studying on and kind of dealing with a little bit in my personal life, just because there's always so many different things, and there's always 1,000 things to do, and only so little time to do those things. But it says that in Psalms 27 and 13 and 14, it says, I would have despaired had I not believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for and confidently expect the Lord. Be strong and take heart. Take courage. Yes, wait and confidently expect the Lord. So that's really the message that I wanted to get across today is, that I would have despaired if I didn't believe that I would see the goodness of God, and waiting for the Lord and confidently expecting him to show up. He will show up. He does show up. It says in Jeremiah 17:7, blessed is the man who believes in and confidently relies on the Lord and trusts in him, and whose confident expectation is the Lord. And it also says in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 9, things which eye has not seen, nor has ear heard, nor has entered into the imagination of man, all things that God has prepared for those that love him. So God has great things in store for us, things that we can't even imagine, things that you can't even comprehend. He has in store for us. And it says also in Romans 8:28 that he works all things together for good for those that love him. So just walk in love and wait on the Lord. Just cool down. Not everything is going to go your way, but everything is going to go God's way. And understand that his ways are higher than our ways, and his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. So just because we don't see how these things are supposed to work out, everything that he is doing is in favor of his children, because he works together all things for good for those that love him. But thanks for stopping by, and I look forward to getting a couple more of these out for you this week.